As you feel ready, walk the feet towards the body, drawing bent knees up to the chest and give them a squeeze. Deep squeeze the knees into the body, pressing into that deepest hip hinge, knee hinge. Try both knees and then one knee at a time. And then with each hand on each knee, create a soft rocking motion. Push the knees up to point to the sky and then pull them back towards you. Starting to create that arch and flattening in the low back. This is one way to pump hydration into the discs. The discs don't have their own hydration supply, so we have to use motion to keep them healthy, keep circulation going into this area. Bring it to a pause with the knees at the top. You're gonna make one big circle with both knees, so bring the knees around to one side, back to the body, around to the other side. Use your hands to help guide the motion. And then go ahead and switch directions of the circle if you haven't already. So those circles go around in the second direction too. And then bring it to a pause at the top, lengthen the spine, lift and shift your hips, make sure they're parallel to the shoulders. Then with each hand on the outside of each thigh, with your knees balanced over the hips, you're gonna tip those knees gently side to side. You can make that motion as big or as small as you'd like. Maybe you stay small side to side at the top, rolling across the back of the hips. Or maybe you make it bigger, maybe the knees go towards the floor or to the floor. Just make sure you're rolling across the back of the hips and not the low back. We did this, I think, last week or a couple weeks ago, and someone came up to me afterwards and they were like, it feels totally different when you roll across the back of the hips versus the low back. And she was saying that it actually helped her low back pain. Isn't that interesting? Creating a little massage here for the soft tissues that attach down in the hips. So this is a great way to release tension in the low back without putting direct pressure or input. Start to make that motion smaller, coming back up towards the top until the knees point to the sky. At the top, touch the feet down to lift and shift, center your hips, lengthen your back and neck. Lift up the legs so that the knees are bent and directly over the hips. So you want right angle hips, right angle knees, right angle ankles. So toes are pointing to the sky as well. Now, bring your arms straight up to the sky. Palms facing in, energize fingertips, reach for the sky. This is so small. We're just gonna activate a tiny rocking motion. So again, on the back of the hips, not the low back, you're gonna tip slightly to one side of the hip, and then tip slightly to the other hip. Your weight shifts a little bit into one shoulder blade, and then the other. So it's a very small controlled motion here, side to side. We're warming up the core bracing muscles. Keep that parallel space between the arms, parallel space between the legs, right angles at the hips, knees, and ankles. Keep breathing, soft face, soft jaw. It's about controlling the motion, making it small and smooth. Last few breaths here. Bring it to a pause, knees come to the chest, give them a squeeze. Hands on either sides of the thighs, lengthen the legs up to the sky, walk out the legs one at a time, bending one knee and then straightening the other. And then straighten out the legs and flex and point the feet a few times, make some circles. And reach the legs way up high, reaching long through the heels. Bring your arms down to your sides. For this next one, you have options with the arms. You can place your hands under your hips if you find that supportive. You can place your arms at your sides or wide to 45 degrees for more support. Or if you find that you are tight and tense in your neck and your chin juts up to the sky when you're in active motion, then you want to put your hands underneath your head or a little pillow to prop it up to keep that tension out of the neck when we're activating in the core. So find what's supportive for you. Long straight legs, lock out your knees, squeeze the muscles of the legs towards the bones around the knees, push long through the heels, bring them down halfway. Reach long through those heels, keep the legs straight. You're gonna walk it out one heel touch at a time. Inhale, lower the right heel to touch. Exhale, bring it up. Left heel. Keep flowing with the breath. You should be balanced on the back of the hips, not the low back, that bracing into the arch, that neutral curve of the low back. Keep breathing. Keep the legs long and straight as you can. Each leg in its lane. Foot in line with the knee, in line with the hip. Just 100 more, we're almost done. I hope you like this move. We're gonna do it the rest of class. Just kidding. 3 more on each side. 3, 3, 2, 2. Last one and 1. Knees into the chest, give them a squeeze. Now in a moment, we're gonna spinal rock up to seated. If you do not like spinal rocking for any reason, you can roll over onto your side and meet us at the top. If you would like to spinal rock, hang on at the tops of your shins, flex at the feet and ankles so your toes are pointing up towards your knees. On your exhale, kick your way through your heels, up to seated. And if you like spinal rocking, because it feels good for some of us, you can do it a couple more times. Whee, and everything's more fun when you say whee. Or just sighing. Sighing is also great. All right. Now that we're up at seated, lengthen those legs out in front, long legs, hands on either sides of the hips. We're gonna flex and point a few times here and make some circles. And then relax, toes point to the sky. Inhale the arms up overhead. And you're gonna reach long through one side of the body. Think of the waist lifting up out of the hip through your fingertips and then long through the other side. You're gonna make it a flowing motion, just like a reaching stretch, as if your arms could grow longer each time you reach a little higher. Maybe you can even feel the shoulder girdle opening up and all those muscles releasing and relaxing. Last one on each side. And then hands come up at the top together, interlaced fingers, push up through the palms, reach those palms to the sky, squeeze your shoulders towards your ears. And then place those hands at the top back corner of the head. Now with your toes active, pointing to the sky, on the inhale, you're gonna squeeze your shoulder blades and send your elbows back. On the exhale to rounding down, let your elbows fall towards each other, tuck your chin in towards the throat as you round down to point your elbows to your belly button. On the inhale, lengthen up as you lift up, lengthen up as you lift up, elbows go back, squeeze your shoulder blades. Exhale, round down. 3 more here. Inhale, back up to center. Lengthen the arms wide, big breath in. On your exhale, swoosh into a forward fold. We're gonna do this rolling with the breath. On the inhale, roll back up. Arms go back to wide. Exhale, swoosh into it. Going to 5 rolling motions with the breath here. And last one. Settle in and hold it here. Hang out in forward fold. Lift the head and heart halfway and relax your arms to the sides of the legs. We're gonna activate a nerve flossing motion here. So you're gonna keep that angle forward, leaning forward. We're gonna activate the feet and ankles into a flex and point. So you're gonna pull those toes back towards you as hard as you can and then point. This is for the sciatic nerve bundle that runs from the low back down through the legs into the feet. So these muscles along the way can tighten up around that nerve. So this just improves elasticity and flexibility of that nerve pathway, lubricating the connections and the overlays of soft tissue. Last one here, and then relax, toes point to the sky. On your exhale, round back down, and just take a few more breaths here. Notice if it got a little easier or changed the feeling in your range of motion. Slowly roll back up to the top. Bring the feet around back behind you. Come to the back of the mat, farthest away from me, closest to the clock. And if you like a little cushion for your knees, you can fold over your mat one time, or if you have one of those cushions to put down, that's great too. We're going to come down to elbows on either sides of the knees. So sitting on your heels, elbows wide to the sides of the legs, and forearms come straight forward with widespread fingers grounded into the mat. Take a breath in to prepare. On the exhale, straighten out the arms to lift up into an arch. Draw your shoulders down your back at the top. Inhale, lower back down. Exhale into a big arched back. If you can, stay sitting on your heels. It's just to deepen the range of motion and the arching in the spine, but find what's right for your range of motion. And last one here, we're gonna hold the lift. So holding here, we're gonna ground into the right hand, inhale. On the inhale, open up the left hand and heart. And exhale back to center. Alternating sides, inhale, open. See if you can feel the shoulder blade gliding over the rib cage rolling open into that rotation. So we want to feel the motion between the ribs and the shoulder blade gliding over the ribs. Letting go of any restrictions there. There's a tendency for that shoulder blade to get stuck to the rib cage, and then we move as a unit. We want independently moving parts. They should all move freely. Last one to each side. And then come on up to tabletop. From the tabletop position, we're going to come into another scapular movement. So this is about retraction and protraction of the spine, of the shoulder blades. So what I want you to notice is not doing a cat-cow, right? It feels like it wants to be similar to a cat-cow, but we're actually going to maintain a long spine here. So you want to think about the head and neck in space, thinking about as if a long pole was going through the top of your head, out your tail, so you're just locked in here to this position. The fingers are on the pads of the hands, you're on your fists with your thumbs pointing forward. As you come down, you're going to open up the palms so that you're on the entire tops of your hands to the wrist. The elbows bend wide. I'm keeping that long spine as I lower my heart to my hands and then squeeze the shoulder blades on the back body. No arching or rounding of the spine. Push off back to fists, thumbs pointing forward, fingers on the pads of the hands without rounding or arching. Just create space. Push into your hands and create space between your shoulder blades. Retraction and protraction. Let's do it all together. Keep that spine long and straight, lower down to the tops of the hands, all the way to the wrists. Elbows bend wide to the sides, long spine. Squeeze those shoulder blades on the back at the bottom. Push off to come back to straighten out the arms. Long, straight spine. Create space between the shoulder blades at the top. 4 more. Smooth breathing, relaxed face. And then pause at the top. Those are deceptively difficult, right? They're pretty hard to do. And there's a lot of stabilizing that goes into the spine to maintain that long spine here. Lower down onto the hands and then the forearms. Now, you're going to bring your hands together into interlaced fingers or prayer hands, whatever feels more supportive for you. Look at your elbows. You want them a little bit closer than shoulders distance. We're going to come into dolphin pose. Now, for dolphin pose, you don't want your head to touch the ground. So if you find that your head touches the ground, your elbows have scooched too wide. Okay? So try to maintain the elbows a little bit tighter than shoulders distance. Tuck your toes under. Send your hips up into the air. Sink your heart between your shoulders, head between your arms. Dolphin pose. Press out the backs of the legs, pressing one heel and then the other. And then lift, just lengthen the legs and lift the base of your butt towards the sky, really sinking your heart between your shoulders. Hug your biceps towards the backs of your ears, sides of your head. Now you're gonna bring one knee in towards the body and point your toes on that foot. Just hug the leg in as tight as you can to the body. And then replace that leg. Second side. Hug the leg in as tight as you can. Hug your knee into your body. Point your toes on that foot. Hug your heel into your butt. And again, first side again. Going to 5 on each side. Really articulate the hug. Hold it in there for a breath. Try not to rush it. It's not about the number of repetitions. It's about time under tension. Keep hugging those biceps towards the sides of the head for support. Push into your forearms. And lower the knees down gently. Sit the hips back to the heels. Relax the arms. Child's pose. Roll on up to tabletop. Find that neutral spine, long spine from tail to crown. Widespread fingers ground into the mat. Lengthen one leg out back behind you. Take a breath in. On your exhale, hug the knee in towards your armpit, towards your tricep, and hold it for a breath. Lengthen that leg back out. 4 more times. Back to long and replace that knee. Second side. Lengthen. And exhale, bring the knee in. Hold it there and hug it. And back. Back to long, and then replace that knee. With the feet hips distance apart, tuck your toes under, walk your hands back towards you. Now very carefully, very slowly, there's no rush, and we're not gonna push all the weight in at once. You're gonna very slowly shift your weight towards your heels to create a stretch through the soles of the feet, into the calves, into the Achilles tendons, and the back of the ankles. You might even shift your weight gently side to side to press into one heel at a time. Slow and gentle. There's no rush here. You're just exploring the feeling. Opening up the soles of the feet into the backs of the low legs. Now, in a moment, all in one motion, You're gonna drop your heels and lift up halfway. Lift your head and heart and lift your arms. Ready, set, drop your heels and lift up halfway. Sit down into chair pose. Keep your head and heart up. Bring your weight into your heels. Push slightly into the outsides of the heels. It's not a motion, it's just an intention. Push your weight into the outsides of the heels. What does that feel like? There's the sides of the hips. Keep pushing to the outsteps of the heels for support. Keep thinking about lifted head and heart, open space between the legs and belly. And launch up to standing. Lift up the head and heart, squeeze your glutes, press forward through the hips, let the hands float down. Every once in a while, I'll be standing in my kitchen and I'll be thinking to myself, when was the last time I did a good mountain pose? This was yesterday. And it's amazing how just getting into certain poses that seem so simple and sometimes get glossed past, it can really empower the moment of embodiment, right? I was feeling a little out of my body and I was like, here I am, I'm a mountain. Sounds really cheesy, but it works in that moment, right? So we're gonna find that power of connection to just standing posture. What does it feel like to be in this body, to feel your roots grounding into the earth beneath you? So we'll start from the feet up. Take a moment to just take a step with each foot and kind of like feel the bottoms of your feet. Feel all corners of your feet, all of your toes. I like to rock a little bit back and forth to feel the front to the back. Where's my weight distribution? I'll even do that side to side a little bit. Am I feeling more into the outsides of my feet? Where are my arches? And take a moment to ground through all four corners of each foot. What are the four corners? On the outsides of the forefoot, the toe knuckles, if you will. On the big toe side and the pinky toe side, those are two corners. And then there's two corners on either side of each heel. So feel into both sides of the heels, both sides of the forefoot. Then lift up all 10 toes. Can you stay connected to all four corners on each foot while lifting all 10 toes? Now as you lift all 10 toes, you feel the arches. Spread your toes wide and then place them back down. See if you can feel that pull up through the arches. They're like the buttresses of power for your standing support. Start to bend a little bit at the knees. If you find your knees are locked out, just a little unlocked bend here. Feel like you're drawing power up through your center. So for me, it's a slight external rotation, especially for women. We have a tendency to be rolled in here. So opening up the inner thighs, that powerful lift through your center, up through the midline, through the low, deep core. Can you feel that drawing up from your arches, through the center of your knees, through the inner thighs, up through the pelvic floor and low, deep core? Now that you've got that strong supportive base, feel the belly draw up and in, but each time you breathe, there's that gentle expansion and engagement. Feel into the undulation of that power. It's not static and unmoving. It's resilient and elastic. As you build that power, feel into it, up into the heart space. Those shoulders create space between the shoulders and ears. Powerful space. An embodied energy that surrounds you. Now your arms are kind of like the branches or ramifications of this expression of mountain. You can be here, you can be here, you can be here. Be your own mountain. How do you embody this total energetic space that is you? Breathe into it. Feel that powerful stare or gaze into a focal point. Maybe the eyes are closed and you're feeling into your powerful center. Feel the breath move through you. Four more long, slow, smooth breaths here. Just feeling into that powerful center. Feel into the breath, how you expand into this space. And re-engage from moment to moment. Can you stay connected to the power of this pose? To the power of yourself? Release the hands, release the arms, slowly unravel any tension or contractions. Inhale the arms up overhead. Down into prayer position. Inhale them back up. Interlaced fingers, engage through the palms, point through the index fingers. Engage your low belly, your glutes, your hips. You want a standing foundation from the belly button down to be strong and supported. Hug your shoulders in towards your ears. Imagine you're between two panes of glass. We're gonna come into half moon pose. Reach long through the center. On the exhale, up and over to the right. Push left through the left hip. Inhale, back up to the top, reach long through the midline, point through the index fingers, and then up and over to the left, push right through the right hip. Back up to the top, long through the center, separate the hands, and swan dive down into forward fold. Hands come to the ankles, slide halfway up to the knees. Lock out your knees into extension. Squeeze the muscles of the legs to the bones. Hug your kneecaps up towards your hips to engage the front of the thighs. Think about the bottom crease of your buttocks lifting up towards the ceiling. Think about the length of your torso parallel to the floor. Are you parallel to the floor? Is there a tendency to come farther down into that range of motion? Where do you engage to get long from your tail to your crown? Space between the shoulders and ears, the length of your neck. Unlock the knees and engagement in the legs. Slide back down into forward fold. Bring the arms around to the backs of the legs. Fingers point down the backs of the ankles. Arms hug the backs of the calves. Hug your body to the thighs. Now we're going to lengthen. I call this the stink bug maneuver, right? Anybody seen stink bugs in the summertime? So you're going to hug your body towards the thigh and lift your tail up towards the sky, straightening out your knees. So this is a big stretch for the posterior chain from sole of the foot to low glute through the whole back of the body. Let your head hang heavy, your neck be long. And then softly bend the knees, release that engagement. Hands come down to the mat. Walk the hands forward until you come to a high plank. Wide spread fingers, softly bent elbows, space between the shoulders and ears, long line from heels to head. Lower down halfway, elbows to the sides of the ribs, squeeze the glutes into dropping the hips, lift the head and heart. Send the hips up into the air, down dog. Bring your left knee into the chest. Extension, lift that leg. 3-limb down dog. Bring the knee back in towards the chest. Extension, lift that leg. One more here. Lift that leg way up high. Point it way up to the sky. Keep your knee pointing to the ceiling. Bend at the knee. Let your heel hang back by your glute. Think of rolling your hip, belly, and heart open to the side mirror front door. Bring that bent knee into the chest. Still in a 3-limb down dog. Now we're going to launch into a 3-limbed plank. So bring your head, heart, and knee forward to your hands. Bring it back to the 3-limb down dog and launch forward into the 3-limb plank. 3 more times. And hold it, hold it, hold it. Bring that knee to the same side elbow, down to the same side wrist, across to the opposite wrist, and then wide to the same side. Knee to the elbow, to the wrist, to the opposite wrist, wide to the side. 3 more. Elbow, wrist, opposite wrist, wide. Elbow, wrist, opposite wrist, wide. 1 more. Elbow, wrist, opposite wrist, wide. Send that foot back into the plank, then down dog. Second side, knee in towards the body, lengthen that leg up. 2 more times. And last one, hold the lift. Keep that leg way up high. Reach, reach, reach for the sky with the knee. Bend at the knee, let the heel hang back by the glute. Roll your hip, belly, and heart open to that sidewall. And bring the knee into the chest, 3-limb down dog. Launch forward to the 3-limb plank. 4 more. And then hold it. Knee to elbow, to wrist, to opposite wrist, wide to the side. 4 more. Elbow, wrist, opposite wrist, wide. Elbow, wrist, wide. Replace that foot back down, come back to the down dog. Roll like a wave, come back to the high plank, lower down to the elbows, lift the head and heart, squeeze the glutes into the dropped hips. Lower the knees down carefully, gently. Relax the feet and ankles, slide the hips back to the heels. Child's slide forward onto the belly. With your hands down in front of you. So we're gonna have face down, but you can stack your hands or make like a diamond or a triangle and rest your head on your hands. We want the elbows wide. So it's gonna be a side to side motion. You're gonna open up the leg on one side, and with the elbows grounded, or one elbow might lift up a little bit, that's okay. You should feel a chest stretch on the opposite side of the leg that's lifting. We're gonna come into just breathing gently into each side, 5 on each side. Let your knee bend, let your foot fall wherever it goes. You just want to feel that opening through the front side body and across the chest. And bring it to a pause. Hands underneath the shoulders, push off back to child's pose. We're gonna come into a modified eye of the needle. Slide your right arm underneath your body so that you come onto the outside of the right shoulder. Turn your face to the left. Lift the head and heart, and then second side. And bring that side back. Roll on up to seated, and then take gentle care in bringing yourself down to lying down on your back. Ground through the back body, long spine, long back of the neck. Draw bent knees up to the chest, and then let them fall wide to the sides of the rib cage, arms to the inner thighs, and lift up the low legs into happy baby. Hang on where you can and hang out. Breathe into the whole torso, into the low belly, all the way down into the pelvic bowl. Bend at the knees, let the heels fall towards the glutes, hands come to the outsides of the knees, and back to the midline. Give them one more hug, and then let the legs float down. into any position that feels good right here, right now.